I'm a business owner, I'm a mom, I'm a woman, and none of that was being looked after. I was making silly mistakes, I was forgetting things. I couldn't keep myself organized, I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't exercising, I wasn't eating well. I actually did develop burnout. I was so overwhelmed and so busy and living in this fog and feeling like a failure.
It's great to be able to see you. It's a while just being able to like have us meet from all the way across over there. But I wanted to talk just a little bit, just get an idea of where were you at before we started working together, before you were introduced to Raw Motivations and before you joined Thriver. Just talk to us a little bit like where you at.
Yeah, so I was actually very lost. I was having trouble finding someone who was able to perform the coaching. But specifically for me, I felt like I had needs relating to business, children, organizing my own life, having a social life as well. There were so many things that just seemed to be overwhelming me, and I wasn't able to score a 10 in any single part of my life. So it was kind of like I had a sort of half a success rate with everything.
Right.
And everything was overwhelming me. But I was trying, like everything was 110%, but I was trying really, really hard. And I just felt like a failure over everything. So I was looking for somebody who could look over all those parts of life. And that's how I tripped over Raw Motivations.
Mm-hmm. I remember like first talking to you, there was a lot of trying. So like 110% was so much there.
Yes.
But it was kind of like spewed everywhere.
Yep.
Like it wasn't really like focused. What did that look like for you?
So I actually did develop burnout. And I had no idea what it was until I described it to a friend who'd also been through burnout previously. I had no idea what it was. I was probably in it for about a year and a half after COVID.
Okay.
Working as a medical practitioner, COVID kind of put a lot of strain on everybody. But I didn't recognize that I was actually in burnout. So once it was pointed out to me, because it's just extreme exhaustion, and try as you might, I wasn't able to get everything done in a day that I needed to have done. But also I was making silly mistakes. I was forgetting things. I couldn't keep myself organized. I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't exercising. I wasn't eating well because I didn't have any time. And I was completely chasing my tail the whole time. And other people on the outside were just saying, wow, you've got it all together and you're doing everything. How do you do that with 4 children and a business?
Right.
Whereas I was the saddest I'd ever been because I actually wasn't accomplishing anything in my days at all. Or so I thought. It was just that it was so scattered and so disorganized that I wasn't seeing how much I was doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot you were doing. It's just you didn't know what it was going towards or even sometimes being focused. What was like the piece for you that made you decide to work with me versus any other coaches out there?
So coming from a trauma background, when I was doing my research and sort of typing in, keywords and things like that, I kind of tripped over you on, I think it might have been Insta at first. I saw a little video.
Right.
And you were basically explaining the fog for the first time, and you were saying, do you feel like you're not getting the most out of life? Do you feel like you might be a little bit confused as to, what's actually going on and what's happening? Do you feel like somebody else is kind of maybe telling you what you are and who you are? And I sort of thought that was the missing piece. That was the bit that I was having trouble with. So, counseling, psychologists, trying to do on my own, I was missing the piece where the trauma background, I didn't want to focus on it. I didn't want to rehash things over and over again and bring it up. I actually wanted somebody to tell me, okay, this is what you're going through. This is why you're going through it. And this is how we're going to move past it, because I'm very goal orientated. I don't like to sit in things. So the moment I realized that you actually gave a pathway through the fog or through the trauma, that was when I realized it was raw motivations. Yeah.
Was there any resistance in that path? Just because I do set up goals of like, here's where we are, here's where we're going, but I don't let you like run away from the pain either. There's like a process of having to step into it and to heal from it. What did that feel like for you, kind of stepping into that?
Yeah, I think because I'm goal orientated, I'm pretty good at once we have the plan in front of us and you're sort of saying, okay, this is what you're going to learn about today. This is how we're going to break it down, and this is how we're going to move forward. I'm able to do that. The checkboxes are fine, but what I need to catch myself is not ignoring the pain. So I like to step over it because I've got stuff to do.
Right.
You know? So I do have to catch myself. I have to deal with it. I have to unpack it, pack it up, and then get on with the goal process. And I did find that hard. And sometimes, you know, the best thing about you, Ben, was that you'd notice when I isolated myself, which meant that basically I was having trouble with the process, or I was having trouble with feeling the emotions that had to go along with it. So I would avoid it.
Right.
But you were always checking in. You were always making sure that I understood what was happening in the process. Mm-hmm. So I always felt connected to the program, and that helps a lot. That helps a lot.
That's huge. That's awesome. In working together and everything that we've done over the past like couple months of, I guess it's been longer than that, right? Like half a year?
Yeah. Oh, maybe more.
A little bit more than that, yeah. Of us like working together, what has been some of the results that you've seen personally in your life just with the coaching, with the stuff that we've done together?
Yeah. So I think the core 4 was the major breakthrough for me. So what I was finding was everything that I was overwhelmed with before was just jumbled, and I'd have diaries and I'd have all the things listed that I had to get done, and everything was urgent.
Okay.
Yeah. So when the core 4 got introduced to me, and I broke life down into body, being, balance, and business, suddenly I realized I maybe hadn't 85% of it tied up in a spot that I really shouldn't have been, like my relationship. It was causing me worry and concern, and I was always trying to keep everything on an even keel there. I'm a business owner, I'm a mom, I'm a woman, and none of that was being looked after. And then the core 4 came along, and suddenly I was focused on my business and kicking goals there. Suddenly I was focused on the children. I'd always been focused on the children, but it was more in a doing role. Like, we have to get you debts, we have to get you to soccer, we have to get like you to tutoring. It's a checklist.
Make it happen in one sense.
Absolutely. But then suddenly I was spending 20 minutes every day with each child, because I have 4, and looking for individual things that they like to do and making them feel like I was actually present.
Right.
I started exercising every morning, eating well, doing my greens every morning. And all of a sudden I had like renewed energy, and I felt vigorous. And the relationship thing that I thought was so important, it actually went back to about probably 10%, because when we focus on balance, suddenly you had sort of 2 groups of relationships that you had to focus on. So it just removed the importance of a relationship that was kind of eating up a lot of my time, ability, responsibility. So, going into that, the core 4 probably altered my life dramatically. Well,
it's kind of surprising results from that. Obviously, there's like this energy piece, but like, what else did you notice that you weren't expecting on the backside of that? Of like, I didn't know this result was going to happen, because we've worked together, and you've had times where you've said like, hey, like, I'm all in with this. And then there's been times backing away, kind of wanting to isolate yourself from just life and hecticness, and then coming back and forth. Like, what have you noticed being different, kind of surprising? Like, these results are different than what I thought I would see.
Absolutely. So in business, I've always been a boss, as in like I get in, get it done. I dream things, and people will sometimes look at me and say, really? And there's that whole idea that, you're just a small town girl kind of thing.
Right.
I grew up in a village of about 30 people, but there's that whole idea of, can she do this? And then suddenly, I've created this business, and I've gone from one doctor to we've got 10 doctors working with us currently, and we're about to open a second practice during the time that I did Thriver and like working with Raw Motivation. So I've got the dream, but I felt like I didn't have the time, energy. I couldn't get it all to happen in one spot. Like I was making notes over here and making notes over here on how I was going to do it. And then suddenly, with the Core 4, I had space to do it. And I was doing more, but I was actually getting more accomplished. I was realizing what was urgent and what was not urgent and what could be delegated. So suddenly I had more time and I had more energy. I was sleeping better. So I think not that losing weight was kind of an issue for me, but I just found my body improved. Suddenly, after you're 40, that can be a bit of an issue. But by doing all this, everything just came into place. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember probably the first time, one of the first times when we were working together, like, you're like, oh, I remember this. And I'm like, and you're pulling out like another notebook and you're like, I think it's on this notebook. And it was just like disorganized, chaos in a lot of different ways. Talk to us a little bit about, like, one of the things we talked about, one of the things we had to focus on was time blindness, right? Of not knowing how much time you could fit into your day. And as a result, you were saying yes to everyone and everything. And then there's this piece that's frustrated. And there's this piece of you beating yourself up of, I can't actually do everything that I'm saying I'm going to do. What did that look like for you?
Absolutely. So the time blindness is a real thing. As a mom, you feel like you have to do everything, and you have to be able to fit it in. But I had no concept of time. So I was basically just saying, yes, sure, I can pick that stuff up. Sure, I can drop the kids off here. Yep, sure, you know what? I can fit that coffee date in. I can, and it was just constant all through the day. And I was so exhausted. And if I couldn't get it done, if I wasn't able to say yes, then I felt like a failure and felt awful. Even though if I was to sit down and explain to anybody how my day goes and from start to finish, they would be just like, oh goodness, Casey, you need help. Maybe have you considered hiring a nanny? Have you considered hiring a cleaner? Have you considered, they were just saying you're doing so many different jobs. Whereas I was actually, you introduced me to the idea of people pleasing, that I was saying yes to keep people happy because it was actually reflecting onto me and making me feel positive about myself because I was able to help somebody else. Whereas if I set some boundaries and set my time up and actually made it so that I could physically get to the things that needed to be done and that was urgent, that would actually give me the self-confidence and the positivity and the energy that I was trying to get from keeping everybody else happy. Mm-hmm. So that was a really big difference. And exactly what you said, I was writing everything madly. When we were first speaking, I had folders upon folders because I didn't want to miss a thing. But I also had no time or ability to actually go back and reflect on what we'd been doing. So there was no thinking through what we were doing. I was just rote learning, keeping notes. And then suddenly you're like, put the pen down. When do you stop using a paper diary. Let's use the app. And it was just like it was like you freed me up. Okay. It was like I wasn't trapped in having to keep this information in case I needed it later to look back on, and because I couldn't remember anything either. Right. When I was rushing through life, and I think you explained it with the fog, I couldn't remember things, which is, depending on relationships and things, is the perfect position for someone to have you if you can't remember, for them to then create realities that may not be correct. Right. Yeah. So
false realities that we have.
False realities.
For sure.
Absolutely. And that was part of me writing everything down because I couldn't trust my own reality.
Right. All right. So what would you tell people that are on the fence of working with Raw Motivations or doing some of the stuff that we've done together over the past couple of months? What would you tell people who are on the fence?
Yeah, so you're probably very similar to me, as in you're used to doing it all yourself. Mm-hmm. But sometimes you just need that little bit of guidance to sort of just to push through the mud and to get to the other side and have clarity. You just need somebody to help guide you sometimes. I'm incredibly capable and accomplished, but I just don't feel it. I get so caught up in the doing of the day that I don't sit back and realize how much I achieve and how different I am to other people and how they may look up to me and think, gosh, she's a mentor. I don't see that.
Right.
Then working with you, Ben, and having you mentor me through it, like I started to get my confidence back. I started to build up. I started to realize exactly what it is that I bring to the table every day, you know? And I was actually able to start saying no, particularly in my relationship. I started recognizing that boundaries were being crossed, started recognizing that reality might have been just distorted slightly, and that this whole idea that I couldn't, that I wasn't organized enough, that I was chaotic, that was being reinforced. And it's so insidious. It kind of happens and you don't even realize it's happening, but you were able to sort of bring and shine a light on that. So I was able to start putting boundaries in place, started saying no, started prioritizing what was important, which was really big for me. So instead of trying to get everything done in the day, I was getting what was most important done in that day.
Right.
And at the end of the day, because I had my core 4 and I was able to tick them off and say, you know, I've achieved this, I was going to bed and actually sleeping because I felt that I had a handle on things. I felt accomplished. I felt like I was succeeding. The kids were responding to me, and
right.
We were all hanging out and having quality time. I was having my own quality time, able to get to the gym, eating healthy, hanging with friends. All of these things I hadn't been doing before, yet I was even busier when I wasn't doing it. I was so overwhelmed and so busy and living in this fog and feeling like a failure that I don't even want to go back to that. I just want to continue working with Raw Motivations, and I want to continue to grow because I know where I'm at the moment. Right. This is amazing and it feels good, but there's just so much more that I can achieve working with you.
For sure. What are you the most excited about? We're stepping into a new year, and yes, I'm excited to be working with you one-on-one as we move forward, just the acceleration and everything that we've got planned for this year. What are you most excited about?
So in business, like I said to you, I dream the dream, and I'm one of those people that can make it happen and I bring it to fruition, but it can be in a haphazard, chaotic way. And what I've been working with you a lot on this year is actually, okay, well, where am I now? Where do I want to be? And if I could make something absolutely impossible come true, what would it be?
Right.
And I think one day you and I were joking and you said, well, what would be your impossible goal? What if you could name any number? And I think I pulled out a number that was extremely high. And I said, well, I want that to be my annual turnover. And you went, okay, is it impossible? And I went, yeah, absolutely impossible. Okay. And then you went, okay, well, let's run with that. And the following week when I was sitting with my financial planner and he said, Casey, this idea that you have, if we get this to fruition, if you're keen to press ahead with this is your annual turnover that you're going to have. I'm talking 7 days later, he named the number that I had said to you. And I just couldn't believe that, I thought this was sometimes metaphorical, that we were thinking it's legitimate. It's logical. It was reality for me that he actually said that number. And I came back to you the following week and just said, Ben, oh my goodness. So I'm actually building a business this year that is going to have what I thought was our impossible annual turnover. So this year I'm focusing on that. I feel like I've I feel like I've got my balance back. I've got my body. I've got my being. Meditation and spirituality is it's not a new concept to me. I enjoy it immensely, but to me it was like, I don't have time.
Right.
What are you talking about? Like, no, I have physically no time. And once I started placing it in there, I was like, no, I'm sorry, I can't do that because I have to have time for my meditation and spirituality now. And, so the boundaries started coming into place because I felt more balanced in my mind. So all of those things have kind of come into line working with you, but business this year, yep.
That's super exciting. I remember that day, and like it will definitely always be in my mind of just, we have the conversation. I believe in it because I've seen it work for me and like hundreds of other people, but like that belief transferring to you of you being like, okay, I'll go with this. And then you come back a week later and you're like, here it is.
The actual number. It was, right. Yeah. And I refer people to you all the time because the program works. It absolutely works. I've gone from confusion, overwhelmed, chaos to clarity, health, feeling like I can trust my reality, right. I don't feel like a victim. I don't feel like a people pleaser anymore. I like me. I feel like me. Yep.
It's awesome. You're definitely not a victim, and you've definitely been you've made through a lot of stuff surviving, and now we're moving into thriving. I'm super excited about that.
Exactly.
I'm glad that you're here with us. So thank you.
Thank you.